I think it's fair to say that after a certain age, almost nobody is completely pain-free. You might have back pain from sitting, or maybe you woke up with a stiff neck from sleeping on a pillow that was too comfortable. When you're 18, you can eat a box of pizza, sleep for 2 hours on a concrete floor, and bounce up ready to run a marathon. Fast forward a couple years, and your body starts acting like an old computer trying to run a video game. It's just loud fan noises and freeze-ups. You might be wondering, why is biological aging such a scam? And why can't our bodies just stay 18 forever? For starters, let's talk about the definition of age we're using here. The number on your driver's license is actually just your chronological age, so that's the number of times you've ridden around the sun. But from a clinical perspective, what we actually care about is our biological age. This is the state of your cells, tissues, and organs. So you might be 38 on your driver's license, but if you're healthy, biologically, you could be 28. Or if you've survived on nothing but energy drinks and stress, you might be rocking the biological age of a 50-year-old. At its core, we age because our bodies are like giant, super complex engines. This engine runs 24/7, converting food into energy and building all the tissue we need to exist. But just like a real engine, running it consistently generates toxic byproducts. But why haven't we evolved out of these traits that make us age badly? Today we're going to explore the evolutionary logic behind why we are built to break. We'll map out the cellular drama that causes our physical decline and look at some science that might help us hack our way out of aging. You might be asking, why didn't evolution just make us immortal? I mean, natural selection is made to weed out bad design, so why did it let physical decay slide? Let's quickly define natural selection. Natural selection is the primary process of evolution, where organisms who are better adapted to the environment are more likely to survive, reproduce, and pass on their traits. So let's use a bird, for example. If a bird is strong, healthy, colorful, and able to do a cool dance for its mate, it will likely reproduce more than other birds who are not as big, colorful, or healthy. Meaning, typically, advantageous traits persist through species, and disadvantageous traits phase out of populations. That being said, natural selection basically treats our bodies like cheap, short-term rental cars. Back in prehistoric times, the wild was rough. You had starvation, freezing winters, infectious diseases, and massive predators looking to turn you into a midnight snack. Almost nobody in the wild actually lived to be 80. So, natural selection had to operate under a massive constraint called the selection shadow. Imagine a gene that causes a fatal heart attack by age 2. That gene would easily be wiped out by natural selection, because the carrier dies before having kids. But now imagine a gene that causes a fatal disease by age 80. By 80, that individual has already had kids, raised them, and passed on that exact gene to the next generation. To natural selection, that later acting gene is completely invisible, so it falls directly into the selection shadow. This brings us to three major evolutionary ideas. First, Peter Medwar's mutation accumulation theory. It states that due to selection shadow, late-acting harmful mutations just accumulate in our gene pool unchecked because natural selection can't see them to filter them out. Second, George Williams proposed antagonistic pleiotropy. Pleiotropy is just a fancy way of saying that one gene can control multiple different traits. Williams realized that evolution will actively select for genes that give us massive advantages in our youth, even if those exact same genes cause severe problems later in life. Since reproducing early is a massive win for passing on your genes, early life benefits will always outweigh late life costs. It's like taking out a high interest credit card. You get to spend a ton of cash now, but you're going to pay massive painful interest in your 60s. Finally, Thomas Kirkwood proposed disposable soma theory. Soma is just the Greek word for your physical body. Kirkwood pointed out that an organism has a strictly limited energy budget, and it has to divide its resources between growth, reproduction, and cell repair. Since it assumes you'd get eaten by a tiger by 30 anyways, investing energy to keep your body running indefinitely is a terrible strategy. So evolution decided to invest just enough energy to keep you alive until you pass on your genes, and then treat the rest of your physical body as disposable. Okay, so evolution treats us like a cheap rental car, but what's actually going on under the hood? To understand this, scientists have mapped out what they call the hallmarks of aging. These are the precise molecular and cellular pathways where our bodies lose control. There are so far 12 hallmarks of aging. This means 12 processes which cause you to biologically age. For now, I'll just be going through 9 of them so that I don't bore you to death. But let's start with the primary hallmarks. These are the direct root cause wear and tear damages. First up is genomic instability. Think of your DNA as the ultimate instruction manual for your cells. Every day, your DNA is attacked by UV rays, chemical pollutants, and even byproducts of your own metabolism. Your DNA is damaged up to 1 million times per cell every single day. Thankfully, we have a molecular repair crew that patches these damages up. But as you age, this repair crew gets sloppy. Think of your skin getting hit by the sun. Over time, these unpatched genetic mutations stop cell division, leading to your skin cells renewing slower. This leads to age spots, sagging, and that leathery, sun damaged texture. Next, we have telomere attrition. Your DNA is wound into chromosomes. At the end of these chromosomes are protective caps called telomeres. Think of telomeres like the plastic piece on the tip of your shoelace. Each time your cell divides to repair your body, these tips get slightly shorter. Eventually, these tips wear out completely, and the chromosome frays, and the cell is forced to stop dividing. This causes systemic cell depletion, and guess what? We literally get shorter. Yes, as you age, the bones in your spine thin out because cells stop regenerating, causing you to lose a little height, and shuts down the rapid division of hair follicles, leading to thinning hair and balding. Then there's epigenetic alterations. If your DNA is the hardware, epigenetics is the software. It controls how genes are switched on and off without changing the actual DNA code itself. It's a system of chemical tags. As we get older, the system gets incredibly buggy. Crucial genes that prevent tumors get turned off, and random, chaotic genes get turned on. A great example of this is your hair going gray. The stem cells in your hair follicles literally forget how to read the make pigment chapter. They stop producing melanin, and boom, you get your first gray hair. Finally, we have the loss of proteostasis and disabled macroautophagy. Proteostasis is the quality control system that folds proteins into correct shapes, while autophagy is the cell's internal recycling truck. As we age, these systems fail. Broken, misfolded proteins clump together and pile up like dirty dishes in a college dorm sink. Also, the recycling truck goes on strike, leaving behind toxic cellular trash, which is a major driver of diseases like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's. Now let's move on to antagonistic hallmarks. These are metabolic responses that start out as helpful defense mechanisms but become toxic when they run chronically. Basically, the difference between the primary hallmarks and these antagonistic hallmarks are that primary hallmarks are the root causes of age related damage, whereas antagonistic hallmarks are the body's initial compensatory response to the damage that becomes detrimental over time. First up, we have mitochondrial dysfunction. Mitochondria are the famous powerhouse of the cell, converting food into energy, which is the molecular fuel of life. But these power plants are messy. About 2 to 3% of the oxygen they process leaks out as highly reactive toxic molecules called reactive oxygen species, or ROS for short. Think of ROS as burning chemical sparks flying out of a campfire. Over time, these sparks burn the surrounding machinery and even mutate the mitochondria's own DNA. Eventually, the power plant runs low on battery, leaving you with a massive energy crisis and failure. Outwardly, you'll feel this as a massive drop in physical stamina. It also messes with your internal heating, which is why a lot of older folks tend to run on the cold side. This ties directly into deregulated nutrient sensing. Your body has built in pathways to monitor how much food is around. When you eat a lot, pathways like mTOR act like an accelerator pedal, telling your cells to grow, divide, and build muscle. When you fast, pathways like AMPK act like the brakes, telling the body to stop growing and start self cleaning. With age, this fuel gauge breaks. The accelerator pedal gets stuck to the floor, and mTOR stays chronically overactive, signaling constant growth even when resources are low, which shuts down your AMPK repair crews. Outwardly, you experience this as the dreaded metabolism slowdown. You reach your late 20s, look at a single slice of pizza, and immediately gain 5 pounds because your body has completely shut down its metabolic repair and burn mode, choosing instead to store everything as fat. This leads us to the final boss, cellular senescence. When a cell takes too much DNA damage, has critically short telomeres, or is hit by too many mitochondrial campfire sparks, it faces a choice. It can quietly self destruct for the good of the body, or it can enter permanent retirement, refuse to die, and become a zombie cell. These cellular zombies stop dividing but remain highly active. They hang out in your skin, brain, and joints like an uninvited house guest who overstayed their welcome. And they're loud. They release a toxic pro inflammatory chemical cocktail known as SAP, or senescence associated secretory phenotype. Think of SAP like a zombie's toxic breath. since I assume zombies don't brush their teeth, so I'm sure they stink. SAP poisons other cells through sheer proximity, damaging structural collagen and actually infecting neighboring healthy cells, turning them into zombies too. Your joints are affected here, as zombie cells can accumulate in your knees, elbows, and hips, and their toxic breath degrades the smooth cartilage that protects your bones. So, you might be saying, well, why can't we just get rid of these zombie cells? The problem is, it's not that simple. We need some of these zombie cells to play roles in embryonic development, guiding how tissue forms. They're also vital for wound healing by releasing signals that recruit immune cells to patch up cuts. So wiping them out entirely would be like bringing a chainsaw to a delicate surgical procedure. The real problem is when they build up to massive uncontrollable zombie hordes as our immune system gets too tired to clear them out. Okay, so this does sound like a total nightmare, but don't panic. We live in a revolutionary era of longevity science. Since we've mapped 12 hallmarks of aging, scientists are no longer just treating individual diseases, but they're actually targeting the root causes of aging itself. And a strong weapon of this fight is senolytics. Think of senolytics as zombie slayers. They're compounds designed to selectively target and destroy harmful zombie cells while leaving healthy cells untouched. A very promising trial paired a leukemia drug with a natural plant compound found in apples and onions, and in animal trials, it cleared out zombie cells and restored physical function, increasing treadmill running speed, boosting grip strength, and extending their post treatment survival by a massive 36%. Researchers are also targeting mitochondria power failures using natural bioactives like sea buckhorn extract. They have been shown to boost mitochondrial energy output, reduce inflammation, and stimulate your stem cells, causing a 40% increase in circulating repair cells in human trials. However, you don't have to wait for some futuristic biotech breakthrough to start hacking your hallmark right now. The basic lifestyle habits that your doctor probably nags you about. It does suck to say, but they work. Take sleep, for instance. Sleep is a massive system wide cellular cleanup event. When you get deep sleep, your body activates proteostasis and sends in your biological recycling truck to clear out any misfolded proteins. But if there's one thing that stalls these hallmarks like no other, it is exercise. When you run, swim, or lift weights, you're reprogramming your epigenome, turning back on the life saving genes that stress tries to lock away. Exercise also kicks your mitochondrial biogenesis into high gear, keeping your cellular power plants young, efficient, and preventing them from spitting out those toxic, DNA damaging sparks. It also physically slows down telomere attrition by activating an enzyme that repairs the telomeres, keeping your chromosomal shoelace tips long and pristine. Lastly, we have clean eating. Filling your plate with whole foods, colorful veggies, and fiber acts as a shield against chronic inflammation. Eating leafy greens, eggs, and liver provides your cells with methyl donors, which are the building blocks of epigenetic DNA methylation. I'm sure you've heard a million times that sleep, exercise, and eating healthy are good for you, so I won't bug you any further about it. If we stop to take a look at the bigger picture here, longevity presents a massive philosophical question. What happens to human culture if we stop aging? Throughout history, progress has relied on generational turnover. If generations never passed away, do our ideas and civil rights movements stay stagnant? Imagine what the world would look like today if 70% of the people born in the 1800s were still alive and voting. And then there's brain capacity. Unlike our skin and muscles, many parts of our brain do not easily regenerate. So, to live indefinitely, we need to find a way to make our brain cells renew themselves. But if we do that, do we lose physical pathways that store memories? Would you have to start forgetting the first 100 years of your life to make room for the next century? It's a pretty wild debate, but for now, the goal of longevity studies aren't to create an immortal sci fi superhuman. The goal is simply to close the gap between health span and lifespan, ensuring that our biological engine runs cleanly and gracefully until the end. So that is the end of my research. Until those medical zombie slayers are approved and sitting on the pharmacy shelves, do your biological engine a favor and eat some greens, get some sleep, and try not to throw out your back the next time you sneeze. Thanks for watching.